Hello and welcome to episode number 45 of Inside Music. I'm your host James Shotwell, and on this episode, I'm talking with my good friend Tilian Pearson. Now, if you're familiar with the band Dance Gavin Dance, then you already know who Tilian Pearson is, as he has been the vocalist for the group during their last two studio records. Tilian is much more than that, though. He's also a solo artist, and on this episode of the podcast, we talk a little bit about everything that he does. We spend the initial part of the episode discussing Tilian's history in the industry. He's just turned 28, and he spent the better part of the last decade working full-time in music in one band or another. We talk about his early projects, as well as joining Dance Gavin Dance, and eventually we transition to what is going to be a big part of his upcoming year, which is his solo career. Tilian has released 2 solo EPs so far, but he's gearing up to release a third and most organic record to date. I've had the pleasure of hearing the album's lead single, Tug of War, which is available now online, and I think it's one of the best songs Tilian has ever been a part of. It's a beautiful, moving story about what happens when a relationship comes to an end. There's a lot of pain in the music, but it's also beautiful in a way, and I just think it's something that you're really going to appreciate. We'll play a bit of it here in the show. Before we get to the conversation, I do want to tell you that if you've yet to hear the last week's conversation with Mike Hansen and Penamino, I really think you should do that. That episode is one of the best ones we have ever done of Inside Music, and the feedback so far has been overwhelming. I think you're really going to like this conversation with Tilian, and I think you're going to like the 3 that we have on the horizon. Do you want to know who they are? I don't know if I should tell you because some things change, but they're already recorded, so I guess we can let the cat out of the bag. This week is Tilian. Next week is Eden the Cat, and if you don't know who she is, you're about to in a big way. The week after that, we have Joey Sturgis, who is probably best known as a producer for a ton of heavy metal records, like all of Asking Alexandria albums. That's Joey Sturgis's work. And then the week after that, which is the second week in November, or the third, we're going to be talking to Brandon Pagano of Handguns. Now, Brandon was on the show earlier this year, and right before the band started their Warped Tour run, and we had a lot of fun talking about his experiences in music up to that, but we hadn't had a chance to talk about the new album yet, so he's coming back on the show to do that. And that will get us almost to Thanksgiving. I have a few ideas for how we're going to end the year. I think we're going to have Holics founder Matt Brown come on the show, as well as a few other interesting voices, but right now that's all still up in the air. What's most important is today's episode. Tilian Pearson is a man that I had long wanted to talk to, and when I finally got the opportunity, he did not disappoint. I think you're going to really like the conversation. I think you're going to like the little details he gives us about the future of Dance Gavin Dance, and yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. This episode of Inside Music is being brought to you by Holics, the internet's leading digital distribution company. Whether you're looking to get your music in front of the press or you need a little help fighting piracy, Holics has the tools you need. For more information on Holics and access to a free 30-day trial, visit www.holics.com. That's www.haulix.com. Okay? Let's play some Tilian.
So you wanna start a war? I'll be there, watching as our towers tumble down. We'll settle all the scores and burn it to the ground. I'll play this game of tug of war, trying to pull you back again. But in the end, I know I'll never win. We're not making sense. We're not making sense. We're not making sense at all. Oh, you're pulling on the rope. I feel it. I'm trying, but my back's against the wall. I'll let you have control.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I actually just got my hair cut, so I'm feeling fresh.
Where are you at today?
I'm in Hollywood, California, where I live at the moment, and I've just had I'm kind of where I got my haircut was a little bit away from home, so I stopped off at a little restaurant patio to do this interview.
Oh, nice.
Just chilling.
So you live in Hollywood right now?
Yeah.
I saw you tweeting last month. You tweeted something about how you've been on the road so much recently. Sometimes you felt like you'd never had a home. So has that have things slowed down a bit since then?
Well, not never had a home. Just currently feel like I don't have a home.
Yeah,
I definitely had a home. Had a home growing up, but yeah, no, it's definitely it's been crazy because I did 2 spring tours with Dance Gavin Dance, and then came home for a little bit, and then did the All Stars tour with Dance Gavin Dance, which was pretty much like half the summer. And then right after that, I went to Portland to do a couple weeks for the solo project, recording that, and then got home for like a couple days. And then I just actually did a live album with Dance Gavin Dance right after that. Got home for a couple days, and we had like a one-off at an Indian reservation, the band did, and then finally I've been home for a week, and it feels nice.
Where did you guys?
It feels more normal after a week.
Where did you guys record the live record at?
We did it at Puss Cavern in the studio in Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
And it's basically I don't know if anything's been announced about it, but I actually don't think it's a like secret or anything. But
I'm pretty sure you tweeted about it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm the only person talking about it, and it's supposed to be a secret, but who knows? I'll check. Either way, I'll take the fall for it if it is. But yeah, we did basically a live album of me singing like old Dance Gavin Dance songs and new Dance Gavin Dance songs, kind of the versions that you would hear live. Yeah, it's pretty raw. It's actually really raw. So I think it'll be kind of exciting for some of the fans. and then other people will be like, this sounds too raw. I don't like it. But they won't be able to put their finger on it. They're just supposed to be like, this is a little weird.
Well, I think that's a great idea actually, because I've always, especially with the tour you guys have coming up, and we'll get there. The tour you guys have coming up, it's kind of been a thing where I've been like, it'd be cool to hear some of these songs recorded with Tilian doing them, since he's out there performing them every night. So I think this is a really smart move. I think that people will really be into that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
We can save the next tour, for later. But yeah, there'll be some special stuff in the next tour for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I realized today when I was getting ready for this, I realized that you and I are basically the same age. I was born in November, you were born in July, but we're both children of 1987, which seems like forever ago in 2015.
Yeah. Wait, you said 87 or 88?
87. Are you 88?
Oh yeah, no, 87.
Yeah, I'm 87.
It cut out for a second.
Oh, okay, yeah. So how is 28 treating you so far? Let me know what to look forward to.
28? Oh yeah, you're about to turn 28. It's good, man. I kind of realized like I dread 29 right now, and then you kind of manage your expectations, and as you get closer and closer, when you hit the age, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm about 28. So like every time you reach a new age, it's kind of like, well, I was dreading that a year ago, but now it's all right.
Yeah.
It feels right.
I was really dreading 27. I mean, there's that whole like classic thing about, 27 is the age where creative people really can kind of hit or miss, because you got all the dead celebrities at 27, and you get a lot of people that just seem to kind of fall off at 27. So I don't know. Like I looked at 27 going into it, where I was like, this is going to be the year that I lose it. Like I don't know how, but this is going to be the year that it all falls apart on me. And now that I'm like nearing 28, I'm like, oh, I've weathered the storm.
Yeah.
It is weird.
The good news.
Go ahead.
The good news is late 20s is pretty much the prime for basketball players, at least. So.
True. It is kind of a weird time though, because I feel like 27 is the first age where I really started to be like, I'm like not like I'm a full-blown adult necessarily, but like I'm definitely not a kid anymore. And being in certain situations, you start to realize how removed you are from like a younger demographic.
For sure. I mean, you're still mid-20s until November. Then you're officially late 20s.
Yeah, then I'm too old. Yeah, that's how it goes.
But yeah, I could see that for sure. There's definitely a younger crowd that thinks and talks a different way.
I was gonna ask. Yeah,
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about that because you're out there and you're in it. Dance Gavin Dance is a pretty wide demographic, and I'm always curious. Like, is it strange for you the older you get to look out into the crowd and see these younger fans coming to like what you guys have to say now? Because I feel as someone that's kind of grown up with Dance Gavin Dance, and even your music as you as a solo artist, it's kind of like you kind of follow that artist on their journey. So like when a new Dance Gavin Dance album comes out, I'm like, oh, that I want to see their latest progression. But it's always curious to me like how it feels when you see someone that's probably half your age who's like, oh, you're my favorite artist, and you're like, do you even you take something, they take something completely different out of your music than like probably what I take away from it.
Definitely. I mean, there's people that they come out and like they're like the first Dance Gavin Dance song they heard is like off the new album, and they're like, I'm such a huge fan. And the album just came out in April, and the first song they heard was like "We Own the Night," the single off the new album. But I mean, I can definitely relate because I don't know, I was that way. I've been that way with bands too, where like when I was a teenager, I got into their later stuff as it came out, and just because it was new, and then went back to their older stuff later. Like I was that way with Radiohead. Like they've been around forever, and I didn't get into them until I was like 17. So heard the new stuff and dove back into the old stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of I think it's more common than we think sometimes, because you kind of see the crowd response at shows, and I don't know, more people are singing along to the newer stuff than the older stuff now. And that's not the way it was when I first joined the band, or when we first put out stuff with me on it. It was still the older staples were like the sing-alongs, and the newer stuff were kind of like people were just,
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, Yeah.
But now it's the newer stuff is sing-alongs, and they vibe with the older stuff. It's really weird. It's interesting.
I've been having this conversation with a bunch of people recently, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the last like 2 to 3 years, it feels like we've really kind of entered a new generation of music fans. Like everyone, as a music fan, you kind of just move up one echelon as you get older and older. But I feel like there's kind of a recent emergence of like a new younger generation of fans that are really into all of the alternative scene, including bands like Dance Gavin Dance that have been around for a while, but they're still like, they're a very young demographic, the next generation, so to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. Pop punk is making a comeback in a huge way as well. I mean, obviously it's already made a comeback, but it's like, it's crazy to me because there was kind of like a little bit of a 10-year gap for like a huge pop punk scene. And now it's just like, as if it was 10 years ago. Again, it's kind of like comes in waves. Interesting.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I could have just been ignorant the whole time, but it seems like it to me. There's like this new, almost like, I don't know, music. I'm talking specifically about like alternative music, and specifically about like punk influence alternative music, or hardcore influence alternative music. Like it went from like really raw was really cool, really polished was really cool, and now you kind of see like it transitioning back to raw being cool again. I don't know.
No, I definitely think you're onto something there. And you're right. There was a lull. There was like this weird mid-aughts lull where pop punk really faded into the background as like these other kind of alternative genres moved forward. I mean,
yeah.
And Dance Gavin Dance is one of those bands, like before you joined the group, that kind of helped usher in that wave of music that kind of took to the forefront, and pop punk got pushed back for a few years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that early Rise Records wave. That's what I always call it, the Rise Records effect. It was the Victory Records effect in like 2001, and then in the mid-aughts, it was the Rise Records effect.
Right.
I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
the early days. I wanted to ask you about the early days, for you anyways.
Okay.
I'm guessing you graduated high school in 2006.
Yeah, I actually graduated high school in February 2006. Weirdly enough.
Early?
Yeah, because my school was progress based. So
Okay.
once you completed your classes, well, yeah, who cares? But yeah, 2006. Though.
Yeah, so 2006, so you pretty much, there was not a lot of time between then and when Tides of Man kind of starts taking shape, right? Like, did you have like a job between the two things, or did you just dive right into music?
I actually moved to LA and got a loan and went to recording school and got really sick and dropped out. And
Okay.
then I went back to Florida for Christmas, and one of my best friends from middle school and high school had started a band, and the band was actually called Empire Theory, and it was instrumental, and it was much more post rock, kind of more along the lines that they are now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
And yeah, and then I kind of jammed with them over like a week period, and then we're like, let's just play a show. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then so we played a Christmas show, and then I just stayed there, and we just put on all of our money and our heads together and recorded an album. And we recorded Empire Theory, our first album, before like any label interest or anything like that. And we played a couple more shows, and then and then we just signed with Rise and started touring.
If you can put yourself back in 2007, 2008 Tilian's mindset, like when that happened, did you think like this is it? Like was Tides gonna be the ship you sailed, or were you just kind of like, we'll see what happens?
I don't know. I mean, it was definitely like, it's funny because that was kind of the most serious band I've ever experienced. Like, at least some of the guys. It was very like family and brother, and we I don't know. It's just very serious. Like, if anybody we would practice till 3 a.m. and everybody had jobs during the day, and it was just like tons of work and tons of like, we gotta like hone in on our craft and make sure it's perfect, and like very, very serious, very daunting. So yeah, I did think that I was going to be in it for a while. But then it's funny because Dance Gavin Dance is kind of, no offense to either, but Dance Gavin Dance is kind of the opposite, where it's like, it's just, everybody's just like, yeah, sounds good, sweet, all right. Practices are really short, writing's really short. It goes like super smoothly, and nobody is really overthinking anything. It's kind of just coming out with the writing process with each member. It's kind of crazy, actually. It's like, it's insane how fast it goes.
Yeah, I've seen you comment on that a few times, and I was curious about how it had changed from Tides. Like when you first entered dance, were you involved in the writing like right from day one, or like did they have stuff ready to go and it wasn't until later that you kind of got into the writing side of it?
I mean, I'm not even really that much of a part of the writing side of Dance Gavin Dance musically.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Tides, like I was a guitarist and a songwriter in the band. And Dance Gavin Dance is more like Will and Matt come up with some riffs and some parts, and then my input will only be structure. Like, that part should happen again, that part shouldn't happen again, or that part should happen as long, based on these lyrics and these vocals. And then they're handling all the music pretty much, And then, yeah, I just write my lyrics and my parts. And usually it's John or I coming up with a concept first. And like, either we'll talk about it or I'll just read his lyrics or he'll just read mine. And then we'll get on the same page that way. I think the first album I did with Dance Gavin Dance, Acceptance Speech, was the most coherent between the two, or cohesive. Like, we tried to make sure that we were both singing about the same subject and that it could be read as a full song lyrically with both of us. And it could be one work. And Instant Gratification, the next album that I was on, we kind of just were like, I'll just read yours and get inspired and just do whatever.
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Anyone that's heard both albums, there's an extra level of craziness to Instant Gratification.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this, because I know we kind of brushed like from Tides to Dance, but people know that story. You moved from one to the other. But when did you start working on Tilian stuff? Like, when did you start doing your solo stuff? Like, when did that come about, and how did you, like, when did it start to come together, and how did you find time to do it in between everything else?
Well, the idea actually came while I was still in Tides, and I was actually talking to Rise Records about doing it. And I was going to do it with them while I was in Tides. And basically, the whole Tides thing, I mean, it's a long story, but to shorten it, I was going to try out for Saosin. And I was going to try to do both Tides and Saosin. I mean, if everything worked out. And then unfortunately neither of them worked out. Because,
okay.
So that's the long story short. And then so then as I was actually like strung along by Saosin for about a year and a half, almost 2 years actually. Like, I went out there multiple times. I did at least 5 demos with them, probably more, like recording with them, writing with them, jamming with them. And then actually there's an interview, I forget where site it was on, because they never really explained anything to me
Okay.
how it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It was like a year and a half of sending stuff back and forth.
Okay.
And as far as I know, Justin, the guitarist, was the one guy who was just like not into it. And the other half of the band was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I know that I always had support from a couple of the other ones. But Justin wouldn't even show up to sessions, jam sessions, stuff like that. He was just not into it for whatever reason. So I didn't really know the reasoning why. But eventually they put out a demo with me on it. I forgot what it's called. And I found out in an interview later that after that, Anthony Green hit them up and he was like, hey, I thought we were going to do this. Because they had been talking to him about it as well. So I guess that got them to see how serious he was about it. And obviously that's a way better fit if he's going to come back.
Yeah, obviously. Makes sense.
So, but they didn't explain that to me. They're just like,
exactly.
We're just going to put out an instrumental EP and see how it goes. And I was like, all right, that's weird. But then, yeah, in an interview, I read about that. And I was like, oh, well, that makes much more sense. Anyway, so I in that 1.5 year period where I was just sitting and waiting around, I jammed with Emarosa, I jammed with Night Verses. At the time they were called Archives. None of that. None of that worked out. I just wasn't that into being in that kind of band at the time. like a newly starting out post-hardcore band, or
Yeah.
like a lost 15 post-hardcore band to some degree. I don't know. It just, plus Amorosa would have been like crazy shoes to fill. Like, first of all, singing the old Amorosa Johnny songs are way harder.
Yeah.
Secondly, whatever. I don't want to talk any smack, but I just wasn't feeling it. Anyway, during that time, I was just like, I'm just gonna write some music and do it. And I just went in to the studio with Matt Malpass, who did Empire Theory, the first Tides album, and I just wrote a bunch of songs with him and just recorded them. And that's Material Me, basically. It's just like, I didn't have much written before I even went there. I was just like, let's just do an album. And that's what we did.
All right.
As opposed to the new one, which is much different.
Ironically, that Saosin demo was titled Promises. So, yeah, it was titled Promises. I looked it up right now.
There it goes.
There you go.
There's like I think there's like 2 leaks and 1 actual release. So, yeah.
So
I don't know which is which.
I read a thing today that I had never seen before. So I was gonna ask you if this is true. Was when you were, so let's keep on the solo train for a minute. So when you did Material Me, then when you got to Future Friends, did you plan to make that a full length, or was that always going to be an EP? Because I read today that it was going to be a full length at one point, and I'd never heard that before.
I don't know, man.
I like that answer. I don't know.
You got me. I mean, there's been so many plans. I don't think so. Like, Future Friends was actually mainly just me by myself in my apartment, like tracking stuff. And then I sent it to Malpass, and I went there to recut a couple songs on vocals, and he just mixed it, and it was the most like. Oh, and then we actually collaborated on one of the songs called Heartfelt. But other than that, it was mainly me just trying to do everything myself. And sonically, I guess it might suffer a little bit because I'm not like a great producer, but it works out enough. Future Friends, the song, actually, interestingly enough, was when I had launched an Indiegogo for the first album.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was essentially like a pre-order package, because, I mean, nothing was like, there was donations, but a lot of it was like pretty per value, like stuff, you know what I mean? It was like a pre-order package. Like, it was pretty close to what the prices of a pre-order package would be now.
Exactly.
Anyway, one of the things was writing a song for somebody, and actually got inspired by a fan and supporter in his story, and that's what Future Friends was. And he actually technically funded the recording of that song. And then I asked him later if I could put it out, and he said it was okay. So that's good. But yeah, that was actually one of those, and I love the song so much that I just wanted to put it out.
Well, I want to talk. The reason I brought up both of those, and the reason that we kind of hopped on the phone today, is because you've got a new project. I know you've been working on it a lot of the year. For a good part of the year now, you've been working on a new solo project. Is it an album or an EP? Let's start there.
It will be at least an album.
At least. Okay. I like that. That's bold.
So it might wind up being an album and another deluxe album with extra songs. There's too many songs right now, I'll be honest.
All right.
But yeah, we're figuring it out. We, meaning me and Vita Records, who's putting it out.
Well,
we're figuring it out.
Yeah, and you're getting ready to release the first single next week. Well, we're talking on October 6th, but when everyone else hears this, it'll already be out. But next week, and sometime, I believe, is when the first single's coming out.
That's a good question.
Well, I think it's coming
Yeah.
out this month at least, for sure.
No, yeah. No, it should come out next week. Yeah. I'm glad you got that.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
because originally it was supposed to come out tomorrow, and then there was one hiccup, so it has to come out next week.
well, we can actually take this further because I've heard it, so we can talk about it.
Oh, good.
I got to hear it at like
So when
we're talking at like
when is
4:30,
it?
and I got to hear it at like
When is
3:30.
Oh, excellent. When does this podcast go up?
We're gonna put it out the day after the song drops.
Excellent.
Yeah, so everyone will have heard it. We can give away the title now. It's called Tug of War.
So let's just pretend that this is actually that day. So we're talking on the so we're talking on the 14th, right after the song came out.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk.
All right, let's talk about it, man. So first things first, this is a lot different than the material on Future Friends. So it sounds very organic. There's a piano, and as opposed to just synth. Like, so let's start with the sound of it. Is this what we can expect from the whole record? This much more organic sound?
For the most part, yes. It's actually even more so because those strings actually on Tug of War are synth strings.
Wow.
Surprisingly. And most of the album was done with Chris Crummett and was pretty much all organic. Even down to like percussion and claps and everything like that. I just wanted to track everything so that there would be a distinct difference. So like the snaps and the claps and like stuff like that. None of it's really sampled. For at least the Chris Crummett portion of the album. And everything is mic'd and everything is nice and real amps and real guitars or a piano. But yeah, that's how it'll be a lot different from Material Me.
What's the story behind the song? I feel like it's one of those tracks that people will associate their own meaning with because it kind of it's pretty open in that you're able to kind of take it how you want. But I'm interested in like what it's inspired by.
Just a dying relationship. It's pretty typical, but I tried to put some kind of a poetic spin on how I was feeling at the time. A lot of the album, actually, I haven't talked about this before. I haven't really talked about the album at all. Just a tiny bit. But the album is, I'm going to try to track list it into kind of the birth and death and afterlife of a long relationship, because that is what I just went through for the last 6 years. So that's kind of the theme of the album, and the songs are going to be listed out that way as well. It'll start, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too specific, but yeah, it'll basically be that.
You don't want to give away all the tricks and surprises just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there guest features on the record?
I wish. But because of the way that it was done, and it was done like most of it was done just like, okay, I got to go to the studio at this time, and it was stuff that I had written. There's not even really, Chris Crummett plays drums. That's exciting. I guess he played drums on one of the Johnny Craig solo albums. And then my friend Jeremy plays piano on some of it. But other than that, it's just I tracked pretty much everything.
So what made you choose to go with Chris for this? Was it just from your experience working with him on Dance Gavin Dance, or how did you two connect on this project?
After instant gratification, I trusted him on vocals. Like, I don't know. That's the main thing, is I trusted him on vocals. Like, there's guys who will try to overproduce or underproduce, and I just like what he does. Recently, specifically on vocals. He's gotten really good in the last few years. Maybe the last 2 years, he's gotten really good.
Well, he's so well known for doing like all these like heavy and hard rock albums that I was kind of curious about it, because he has done a few softer records. He did like Tyler Carter's solo EP and stuff, which is pretty great. He's done a few of those.
I didn't
records.
even know he did that.
Yeah. I honestly learned it today. So I'm not Chris's, I'm not knowledgeable on all things he's done, but I know a few things. So I was kind of curious. I figured it was because of the Dance Gavin Dance thing, but I assume he probably also saw it as a nice chance to do something other than hard rock bands.
Yeah, I think he was definitely really excited about it going in.
Well, when is the world going to get to hear? So when that song goes live, or the song is live when we're talking now, are the pre-orders going up right away, or is it just a song for now?
No, actually, I might as well say it because it's kind of neutral. Actually, the song is going to go up, and then a week later, the music video is going up, and all the pre-orders. It'll be the music video for the same song. But all the pre-orders and stuff will go up after that.
I'm not gonna make you tell us when it comes out, because I know that they'd be mad at us.
The album, yeah. It's also like not 100%. So,
fair enough.
well, I mean, to be honest, the album doesn't have a title yet. Like I'm meaning, and it doesn't have art yet, which is like two main things that you need if you're gonna put up pre-orders.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to figure that out in the next couple of days.
You have any ideas? You kicking around any album ideas right now? Any album title ideas in your head? Maybe we'll hear some you don't use.
Stranger.
Interesting.
Is one of them.
Do you put a lot of thought into these? Like, are they supposed to represent the record, or are you just trying to come up with something catchy? Or
well, Stranger is a song title.
Oh, there you go.
And so is Tug of War, which will be out. Well, actually, because we recorded this podcast right after the song came out. It already came out.
Yeah.
So Tug of War. But that's kind of a cool album title that represents the whole concept.
Definitely.
Tug of War. So I might do that. I mean, I'm trying to think of that visually and kind of like tug of war, okay? Because an album has to be like, conceptually, sonically, and visually, it has to make sense. So I'm trying to think of something perfect for it.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. You got a little time.
Maybe. Got some time.
Well, let's talk about let's I guess we should talk about the other thing you have coming up. So you've got the Tug of War will be out when people hear this, and after Tug of War, it's not long before you hop back on the road with Dance Gavin Dance once again.
Yeah.
Is that your last big run of the year? Is this big Dance Gavin Dance tour you have coming up?
I would hope so, because it ends on December 19th. So.
Fair enough. So I guess, man, as soon as I saw this tour get announced, the kids probably lost their collective shit, or I did, because I got excited, because as soon as I saw the lineup, I was like, these tricky fools are doing something pretty crafty with this lineup, or at least it's setting up a lot of possibilities. So when did you guys start kicking around the idea for this tour? And was it always like, let's invite the other vocalists and their bands out with us this time, or did that come later? How did it come together?
It's like a year ago, I think. We were thinking about doing like originally it was like Squash the Beef too, because Squash the Beef was like a tour in 2010. That happened between Emarosa and Dance Gavin Dance.
Oh yeah.
And actually, my old band Tides of Man was actually on that tour.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we were kind of kicking it around, and then, the funny thing is, Slaves actually already had a tour in the fall. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Escape the Fate fall tour. And then after they got kicked off of Warped Tour, they got kicked off of their fall tour. And then we were kind of like, well, we should do the 10-year anniversary because the band's been a band for 10 years, Dance Gavin Dance. And we should put Slaves and A Lot Like Birds on it and have some kind of special performances, possibly, maybe. And yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
So have you guys talked it out with the other band? I mean, everyone's expecting that we're going to get to see everyone kind of do some of their songs with the band. Is that the plan?
I don't know. I don't know what I can say yet. I mean, there's going to be Dance Gavin Dance is going to have some special guests.
That's a good way to put it.
Sure.
I like that. Let's just leave it there and leave the rest up to the imagination.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads into the obvious next question. So are we going to get some Tilian solo shows in 2016 then?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
man.
the plan.
That's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Now, does it make you...
I actually did an Australia tour already with Matt Mingus.
Okay.
It was like a two-piece plus backing track. And that's probably not how I'll do it in the States. I'll probably try to get more real live instruments. But yeah, could be hopefully spring.
So would this be another full band? You think you're going to do the backing tracks and small outfit again, or have you not gotten that far into it?
I have a vision for it. It'll be full band. Yeah.
That's exciting, man. So you have to be kind of... I'm itching to see you bring these songs, especially after having heard Tug of War, and I think everyone else will agree that that's the first time in your solo material that I was like, I really want to hear this song live because I feel like it could have a whole different feel in a live setting.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that the organic feel of the record will lend itself to that, kind of in general.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, there's two things I try to do on the new one. It's like make it a little more vocal centric because Material Me, despite being like kind of a pop alternative album, it wasn't even necessarily vocal centric. Like it was kind of like a lot of it was upbeat and there was tons of layers of instruments. And I try to strip it back a little bit on the next one.
Well, I mean,
I'll figure it out live. I'll figure it out live. Figure something out.
I like that approach.
I like that approach too. I know that a lot of bands and artists go into the studio thinking like, how can we pull this off live? Otherwise, we're not going to record it. You know what I mean? But I'd rather be like, well, let's make the song and then we'll figure it out later. And that's kind of like how one of the like coolest live bands I've seen is Foster the People. And they have like a lot of samples, a lot of layers, a lot of synths, stuff like that. But they actually do it all live and they just figure out a way. And that's one of the coolest things about their show.
No, I've seen a lot. I can concur with that. That's great. I'm excited to see these songs live, and I'm excited to see you bring them out. And so how are you going to balance it? Do you get worried about balancing it all? I mean, heading into this new year, you're going to have a solo album to put out. I'm sure Dance is going to have stuff going on. So you ever worry about getting too overbooked?
No.
I like that.
I mean, it's kind of like I'm only going to be in my 20s for a couple of more years. So I got to do it now, right?
It's true. Yeah, man.
I'll have time to rest later.
Yeah. Yeah, you will.
Plenty of time.
Who knows? I mean, the solo career could be what carries you through your 30s. That could be 30s Tilian right there in the making.
Yeah, there you go. I just switched the genres up to adult contemporary. I can go till 40. you know?
Yeah, there you go, man. That's the next phase. That's life after alt right there. Oh man, that's exciting, man. I'm excited for you. You seem like you've got a lot of great things on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Well, now that everyone's heard Tug of War when they're listening to this podcast, is there anything else you'd like to say on the song you hope people take away from this? I mean, this is kind of the start of the next chapter of Tilian, the solo project.
I don't understand the question. Is there anything else?
Yeah, is there anything we missed about the new material you want to touch on? Because I feel like I don't want to spoil it too much, because I know that you've got we are literally we're like pre-beginning of what will be a big promotional run for you. So I don't want to let all of the rabbits out of the hat just yet. But is there anything else that we can talk about? You wanted to share about the new material?
I don't know. I'm nervous about it for sure.
Really?
I put a lot more time into this one than material needs. So it's kind of like there's a lot more at stake almost, just because of the amount of effort and time I put into it. So I'm slightly more nervous now than before. And I just hope a lot of the songs are pretty bare. And it's just basically song and voice, and hope it catches on. So yeah, I'm excited.
You're so humble, sir, for a guy who's about to celebrate. You're pretty close to 10 years in music yourself, and to know that you're very humble about it. I appreciate it.
Sweet.
Yeah, well, I think we've covered everything we got to cover today. I know, so we got the dance. So Tug of War is out now when people hear this, and they can. It'll be on your official website. I'm sure they can find it through all of your social media stuff. I don't think I know where it's premiering yet. So,
it will be on Vivo.
There we go.
I think.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't think we've worked out at this point, which is actually not after it's been released, but it actually is. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out where the premiere is going to go.
Yeah, and you're easy enough to find online. You're at Twitter at Tilian Pearson. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah, one L and everything. Yeah, Twitter at Tilian Pearson. Instagram, Vine. Facebook. I think there's one that's just Tilian, one name. To be honest, I don't really use Facebook so much, but
well, people should still clear. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for talking to me again today. Everyone should go listen to Tug of War. They should go see this Dance Gavin Dance tour. I'm going to go see it when you guys come over to New England. So when you get over here, hopefully you and I can meet up. We'll exchange high fives.
Sweet.
And yeah, man, we're all set for the day. So people can find you. You're at Tilian Pearson online, and then Dance Gavin Dance. I don't remember what your Twitter handle is for Dance Gavin Dance. Is it DGD official?
The band. DGD the band.
DGD the band. There you go. Yeah. Official is probably just some asshole who's trying to be Dance Gavin Dance.
and DGD and Dance Gavin. I mean, to be honest, we weren't active on Twitter until like a year ago, but now we're super active. So
well, there you go.
You can follow.
Maybe one day one of those nice people will give you your other handle. I've seen it happen. Maybe.
Well, someone gave it to us on Instagram. That was nice.
Well, there you go. All right, man. Well, you have a great day. I wish you the best of luck with Tug of War. We'll promote it everywhere. I hope you have a great October, man.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, man. We're all set.